Hi friends, welcome to story time for today. This week we're going to get to read about fish and frogs and see how these different animals grow. So I'm excited to share a new book with you today. First, I want to shout out all the hard work you all did last week with your drawings and creations around our trees. It was really fun to see all of the different ways that you created your own magic trees. So way to go, Kipsters. Before we get started, make sure you've got a comfy spot so you can listen to our story. During the video, you can press pause if you want to talk about any of the questions more or go back and see any of the different pictures and pages. And then I'll share an idea for an activity that you can do at the end of the video, and I hope you have fun with it. Here we go. So today we're going to be reading a book called Fish is Fish. So to get our brains ready, let's think about what we already know about fish. I'm thinking that we have watched the movies Finding Nemo and Finding Dory together, and we got to see a lot of different kinds of fish that live in the ocean. What do you know about fish? Thank you for sharing. I'm remembering that our fish live in water and they use their gills to breathe. So I know that in Finding Nemo, they lived in the ocean. It looks like in this story, this fish is living in some kind of green and blue water. But in this picture, it's a fish with wings. And I've never seen that before. So I wonder what we're going to learn about fish with wings in this book. Some vocabulary or words we're going to learn about during this story are life cycles. So a life cycle is all of the changes that someone goes through in different parts of life. So last week when we were learning about how our trees grow, we saw that their life cycle started as a seed. The seed sprouted, started growing roots, a trunk, branches, and leaves. And in the tree life cycle, we saw some trees could live for hundreds of years. Today, we're going to get to see the life cycles of a frog and a fish. So we'll come back to these two pictures so you can see how frogs and fish grow. Our story question today is, how do fish and frogs grow in different ways? So in this story, we're going to meet a fish and we're also going to meet a frog. And we're going to read and find out about their life cycles and see how they grow in different ways. All right, I'm going to make my video a little bit bigger so you all can see all these beautiful pictures. And we'll get started. This book is called Fish is Fish, and it's written and illustrated by Leo Leone. He uses a lot of different beautiful watercolors in his book, so I'm excited to show some of his artwork with you. Fish is Fish. At the edge of the woods, there was a pond, and there a minnow and a tadpole swam among the weeds. They were inseparable friends. Now, a minnow is the name for the part of a life cycle when the fish is a baby. A tadpole is the name of the part of the life cycle when a frog is a baby. So this must be when they were just born. One morning, the tadpole discovered that during the night he had grown 2 little legs. "Look," he said triumphantly. "Look, I'm a frog." "Nonsense," said the minnow. "How could you be a frog if only last night you were a little fish just like me?" They argued and argued until the tadpole said, "Frogs are frogs, fish is fish, and that is that." So we can already see that they're starting to grow in different ways. What do you see in the picture about how they're growing in different ways? That's right, the tadpole grew 2 legs. In the weeks that followed, the tadpole grew tiny front legs and his tail got smaller and smaller. Then one fine day, a real frog now, he climbed out of the water and onto the grassy bank. What do you notice about how the frog has grown in a different way than the fish? Yeah, the frog's back legs got long and strong. He grew little short front legs, and his tail disappeared. And the fish didn't grow any legs, but it got bigger. The minnow had grown and become a full-fledged fish. He often wondered where his four-footed friend had gone. But days and weeks went by, and the frog did not return. Then one day, with a happy splash that shook the weeds, the frog jumped into the pond. "Where have you been?" the fish asked excitedly. "I have been about the world, hopping here, hopping there, and seeing extraordinary things," said the frog. "Like what?" asked the fish. "Birds," said the frog mysteriously. And he told the fish about birds who had wings and 2 legs and many, many colors. Look at what the fish is picturing when he's thinking about the birds. As the frog talked, his friend saw the birds fly through his mind as large feathered fish. "What else did you see?" asked the fish. "Cows." Cows! They have 4 legs, horns, they eat grass, and they carry pink bags of milk. Look at what the fish is picturing about the frogs and the cows. And people, men, women, and children. And the frog talked and talked until it was dark in the pond. But the picture in the fish's mind was full of lights and colors and marvelous things, and the fish couldn't sleep. If only he could jump out like his friend and see that wonderful world. The days went by, the frog had gone, and the fish just lay there in the pond, dreaming about birds in flight, grazing cows, and those strange animals all dressed up that his friend called people. One day, he finally decided that come what may, he too must see these things. So with a mighty whack of his tail, he jumped clear out of the water onto the bank. Uh-oh. What do you think is going to happen to the fish now that he's out of the water? He landed in the warm, dry grass and lay there gasping, unable to breathe or move. "Help!" he groaned feebly. Luckily, the frog had been hunting butterflies nearby, saw him, and with all of his strength pushed fish back into the pond. Still stunned, the fish floated about for an instant. Then he breathed deeply, letting the clean, cool water run through his gills. Remember, fish have gills on the side of their body that they use to breathe the water, not the air like us. Now he was weightless again, and with an ever so slight motion of his tail, he could move to and fro, up and down, as before. The sun rays reached down within the weeds and gently shifted stretches of luminous colors. This world was surely the most beautiful of all worlds. He smiled at his friend the frog, who sat watching him from a lily leaf. "You are right," he said. "Fish is fish." The end. Thanks for reading that with me, friends. Let's go back to our story question and see if we can answer, how do fish and frogs grow in different ways? Let's look back at our pictures. They started out as teeny tiny fish together, the tadpole and the minnow. Then, what did the frog start to grow? Legs front legs. The tail started shrinking. And how did the fish grow? Got bigger. And what did we see at the end of the story with what else was different about them? That's right, the frog could hop around and breathe on land, but the fish needed to be in the water so that it could breathe with the gills. Great job using the pictures to help you answer those questions, friends. I hope you enjoyed our book. Did you see how the frog went through his life cycle and the fish went through his life cycle? All right, now it's time for your activity. If you have time, see if you can create your own pond or aquarium and your own fish and frogs to live there. You can use this empty cereal box, a shoe box, a paper plate, a jar, or a cup to create a home for your fish and frogs. You could also use plastic bags or even some strings to decorate and hang your fish inside of a box or on a plate. Have fun, and thanks for joining for story time today. Bye, friends.